Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Panama, Flora and Fauna. If any of you are going off the ship, you may well see some of what we're going to discuss this morning. And if any of you are going to go off the ship tomorrow and stay in port in Cartagena, you definitely will see some of what we're going to discuss this morning, although yes, it's in Colombia. And as you can see, my name is up there. Here's today's offering. Read it, wonder about it. You won't get that vision out of your mind tonight when you go to sleep. I don't know who does these things. Okay, let's first of all look at the climate. I did allude to the climate when we were doing history of the Panama Canal, but let's talk about it specifically. In the north, in the Atlantic side, it's wetter because of the mountains. They prevent the water vapor coming over. In the south, in the Pacific area, it's more balanced, so we have more humidity up on the Atlantic side than we do on the Pacific side. And there, of course, you see the map of Panama. There's a mountain range that basically runs through. This is the notorious Darien region that you may have heard about, that's very unsafe for people to cross. All of the people that are coming up to the US border are going through this area, and it is very unsafe for them to do so. Some of them don't get out. So that's the average temperature. Now remember, when I say averages, that means there's highs and lows. So don't necessarily think that, oh, 84 degrees Fahrenheit for you Americans and 29 degrees centigrade for the rest of the world is hot. It gets hotter. And of course the other thing too is the humidity. Notice it's 80% and above, and the more humidity, the worse it feels. Now, if you go out of the coastline and go up to an area called Boquete, which is high up in the mountains, it's very pleasant indeed. And in fact, there are a number of people that have moved down into Panama and are living in these communities. Same thing with the other Central American countries. They're moving into the interior where it's higher and it's so much more pleasant. The rainy season, as you see, is April to December. What month is this? Hopefully it won't rain too much, but it could rain. And when it does rain in this area, oh boy, it rains. It comes down like a monsoon. Here we see the weather. The average line there is in the middle. There's the average line, the green line. There's the maximum range up there, the red line, and there's the minimum range there in the blue line. And I've put some Fahrenheit up there so you can see what it's like. This is in Colón through the year. Pretty consistent. This is the rainfall, not consistent. As you can see, we're in the drier period towards the left-hand side here, down in February and March, so not so much. That's about 50 millimeters of rain coming down, as opposed to later in the season where it can really pelt down. And of course, that's very necessary for where we're going. And I'll talk more about that as we're going into Lake Gatun. But very briefly, they need fresh water to run the Panama Canal. If they run out of fresh water, the Panama Canal is dead. Where does that fresh water come from? It's right here, from the rain that feeds the lake. I heard somebody say lake. Where do you think the water in the lake comes from? It's here. And in fact, the lake level has dropped very low on occasions, and that restricts the traffic going into the canal. I'm not sure what the level is right now, but when I have been here previously when the level is low, you can actually see some treetops of the drowned trees that were submerged when they made that lake. They were just peeking up above the surface. So you had an idea, yes, the water was low. Here's the humidity. I said pretty much constant. As you can see, it basically varies between 80 and 90% in Colón, so that can be unpleasant. Right, now let's move to what lives there. So I've listed here the number of, and these are approximate numbers, of course. We don't have zoologists and botanists going out, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're estimates, but they're reasonably accurate. And many of these are endemic. What does endemic mean? Endemic means a creature only lives in a particular location. Maybe it's a country. Maybe it's an island. Maybe it's just a corner of an island. Maybe it's even just one mountain on that island. You will only find those creatures in that place. Many of the creatures that we have in this area are indeed endemic. So in taxonomy, when we define life, we go all the way down from life at the top of the column here, and we move through the, oh, where did it go? That'll teach me. Where did you go? Where did you go? There, go back again. We have life, where are you? We have life up there. We move all the way down, and finally we end up with a species down the bottom. The picture over on the other side goes the other way. So we've got all the things in life down at the bottom moving up to a species, for the example of it being a dog. So when we're talking about taxonomy, we're basically, when I'm talking to you about it, we're going to be talking about species, maybe genus, and maybe family. So right down the bottom of the tree if you're looking over on the right, or at the top of the tree if you're looking over on the left. Right, plants. Anybody know what that one is? They get very big in Panama, so don't get close. I'm kidding. And they don't move that fast, it's speeded up. There was a report that came out in 1987 that basically covered a lot of the flora in Panama, and since then there hasn't been too much added to it. There was another report in 2019 and only 46 more species have been listed. You can see that deforestation is getting to be a problem. Deforestation is a problem all over the world. And why is deforestation a problem? It is because we keep growing our population and we want more land. This is all related to climate change, and I will be discussing climate change later in the voyage. This map shows us basically the different shrubberies that we have all over the isthmus. So evergreen forest is the dark, well, almost dark green. The swamp is the really dark green. Scrub is yellow there. And cast your eyes over that and you can see how the vegetation varies over the isthmus. The Darien Gap area is down over here, and that's mostly forest, which is hard to get through. Some of the things that you're going to find there you're familiar with, such as this plant, the American elderberry. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that in North America. It comes all the way down to Panama. You can eat parts of that, but other parts of the plant are poisonous. Some of the vegetation that we have in Panama is really very noxious, and I'll get to that in a couple of slides. There's also some very interesting edible things in Panama that you might see. So talking of noxious things, here is the most poisonous tree, one of the most poisonous trees in the world. This is the manachil tree. If you stand beneath this tree and it's raining, the water will absorb oils from the leaves, and if it lands on your skin, it will burn you. The example down at the bottom of the man's arm is an injury from the manachil tree. The Carib Indians used to either execute or torture people by tying them to the tree. And of course, the residues dropping down on them would burn their skin, and if you left somebody there long enough, it would kill you. There is a very attractive fruit on that tree, looking like an apple. Please don't eat it. You'll have a very bad day. It will be a short bad day, but it will be very bad, so please don't. The good news about this tree is there's not too many of them left. I wonder why. You don't want to cut this tree down and burn it, because if you stand in the smoke, you'll go blind. What a lovely tree. This is the nettle tree. I'm sure some of you have been stung by nettles. This one's particularly bad. You're going to have 24 hours of excruciating pain if you touch this one. So if you see something that looks like a nettle, please stay away from it. If you're going on one of the jungle tours, stay on the path, don't go off the path. Don't go and explore in the vegetation, please. This is the stinging spurge, and it's again, similar to the one we just saw. Looks a bit like a nettle. You see the spikes sticking out of it, and that can give you, again, a nasty burning sensation on your skin if you contact that. So another plant to avoid. I know this is sounding bad, right? Pretty much every plant I'm talking about is terrible. You're all getting scared. Well, there's some nice stuff out there too. No, this is one of them. Oh, no, it's not. It's the next one that's not. No, this is the sandbox tree. This is also known as the dynamite tree. The fruit that you see there on the right ferments within until the pressure of the fermented gas that comes off from the fermentation process explodes the fruit, sending out seeds up to 60 meters away, well, 100 meters away. I'm sorry, but the tree's 60 meters high, and within the fruit there are sharp spines, so you could get hit by an exploding fruit. Now, and that's something to put on a t-shirt. I was injured by an exploding fruit. Reminds me of the Galapagos that we went to. I'll talk about Galapagos at the end. On the party that we went with, somebody was scuba diving and his toe was bitten by a parrotfish. I did say you need a t-shirt now. I was bitten by a parrotfish. There's another t-shirt that some people should have, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Ah yes, this is the key. I had the two slides mixed up in my mind. You can eat this one, you can eat the white flesh of this, but don't eat the seeds because the seeds are poisonous. So you stay away from that. It's named Blaia sapida. This is homage to Captain Bligh of Mutiny on the Bounty. Why? Not because he caused the mutiny or had anything to do with it. It's because he introduced the fruit to the United Kingdom. So it was named after him in his honor. That often happens in taxonomy. A discoverer will have his name incorporated into the name of whatever it is they've discovered in some form or another. This is nightshade. I'm sure you're familiar with nightshade. It's quite common. It's all through the world, actually. Used to be used as medication by the ancient Greeks. And of course, you've got to be careful with it. The unripe berries are toxic indeed. Symptoms are delayed, so if you want to have a little bit of nasty fun, you can get away. 6 to 12 hours is the onset of the symptoms if you ingest anything from this one. This is black poisonwood, Ritopium toxiferum Krug, and it's kind of like the manichil that I talked about. The sap is not very good for you. It will cause skin irritation on contact. You should not be handling this one, and also burning the wood from this tree is no good. You don't want to be standing in the smoke coming off this one. It will cause damage to your eyes and you will regret having done that. Yes, we got back to the nasty plants. We'll get to some other ones in a minute. This is oleander. I'm sure you're all familiar with oleander. Everything about this plant is bad, actually. And you can see some of the symptoms you can get from that. So don't ingest it, don't put it in your salad, and if you touch it, don't put your fingers in your mouth or your eyes because you could take some of the toxins away within you. Even burning this one is not good for you, so don't stand in the smoke from that one either. This is the mammy. This is a berry, and you can either eat this raw or cook it, and apparently I haven't had this, unfortunately. I have had pleasure of having some exotic fruits when we've been down in this area, but I haven't had this one. But this is reminiscent of an apricot or a peach when you eat it, so that sounds really delightful. So if you're looking for something interesting, maybe they'll have it in a local supermarket. My wife always likes to go into local supermarkets and see what's there. It really gives you an idea of the culture. Maybe you'll find one there. Well, that's the mammy. You can have that one. This is sapote. The flesh of that is also nice, juicy and creamy, and has some very nice notes like coconut and vanilla. You can have that one too. It sort of looks like an Asian pear on the tree there. and cut it open and you can eat that. These are piba. They look like dates up there. I always wonder about this. The raw fruit, no, not good for you. It's got acids. So who tried it to figure out it wasn't any good? And then who had the bright idea of treating it in this way and still trying it, knowing that it was already bad? But we do that. We've got a number of vegetables and berries and fruits that are not good for you in certain forms, but if you do something to it, if you treat it, they're absolutely lovely. I don't know who those people were. This is the Panama tree, kind of like chestnuts. If you take those seeds out and roast them, it's like chestnuts. The only problem is getting the seeds out, because within the pod, you've got sharp bristles that you can injure yourself on trying to get the seeds out. So you wouldn't want to be doing it with your hands. You'd obviously want to do it with some kind of implement. And I imagine that was something that people, when they first discovered that they could eat the seed, they figured that one out pretty quickly, having hurt their hands trying to get it out. But then again, who would have thought, well, let's just roast these seeds and see if they're edible? It's kind of like ongoing Darwin Awards. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you want to lose, obviously, with Darwin Awards. If you don't know what I'm talking about with Darwin Awards, a Darwin Award is given to somebody that does some kind of behavior or practice that removes you from the gene pool. In other words, it kills you. And there are some really great winners, I can tell you. Now, coffee. I don't know if you knew that Panama makes coffee. When we're in port in Colon, I will give you a clue. If you want to buy Panamanian coffee, there's a lovely port now that's been created in Colon. It was still under construction the last time we were there, so maybe it's finished by now. And you will find Panamanian coffee in the shops. It's not cheap. But if you go into the local supermarket that is in the port area and look for coffee, you will get it at a reasonable price. You'll get it at what the locals pay for it. Now, interestingly, when we were in that supermarket looking for coffee, we were horrified to find that most of the coffee in the supermarket was instant coffee. I personally don't think that's coffee, but that's another story. But we found Panamanian coffee at much less money than it was being sold for in the shops. So do go there if you want it. Now, the other thing that I do want to tell you about when you go to the port in Colon, don't leave it. It's not safe. There is, unfortunately, close by, within about a 10-15 minute walk, a huge duty-free area that we went to. Well, we did. And we bought some suitcases. And when we got back to the ship, we were told what we shouldn't have done. So please don't do it. You might not get back to the ship. All right, back to coffee. They make about 6,000 tons, as you see there, or 6 million kilos exported. They are the 37th world producer. And we see a coffee plant in the picture. Some of the coffee that is brewed in Panama, that is grown in Panama, I should say, is extremely good. Geisha coffee. You can find it in other countries now. You can also find it in Ethiopia and Costa Rica, or used to. It's basically only here. It's very expensive. There's only a few farms up in Burkett that do this. It's high altitude, and you can see, you can buy it online. You see the prices up there for 16 ounces or 450 grams, anywhere from $70 to $120. I found that on Amazon, of course, because Amazon sells absolutely everything. But in 2022, there was a record set from the Carmen estate of $10,000 per kilo for this coffee. I'm sure none of you are going to rush out and try and buy some. Orchids, very common all over the world, believe it or not. I know we think orchids are an exotic plant, but they're not. There's actually about 1,400 species in Panama alone, and a newly discovered one was found there in 2014. and that's its name up there, Lothiara silverarum, native to Panama, and a picture of it too. So there's orchids everywhere. Now, if we look at the economic activity of Panama, it also tells us about things that are being grown there. So on this map, we see bananas, coffee, and sugarcane. They're being cultivated. You see the key there. You also see some of the other economic activities that are being performed in Panama: cattle, fishing, lobster, and shrimp on that map. So it gives you an idea of where these things are taking place. Of course, where are we? We're going to be in this area here. There's Colón, there's Lake Gatun, and some of you might be going down to Panama City down there. So we're in a very small part of Panama. All right, let's turn to fauna now. Some of these you might see, some of these you will definitely see, but not necessarily in Panama. As I said, there's a lot of endemism all over the world. This map shows you how endemism is spread over Central and South America. The darker the purple, the more endemic species live in that area, meaning you don't find them anywhere else. And of course, if you concentrate on where we are, which is that area there, there is some very dark color all through the isthmus, meaning there's a lot of endemic species living in this very small area of the world. And of course, when you're confined to a very small area of the world, you're a vulnerable population to any outside influences. The major influence, of course, is us. So, here's a summary of what we find in fauna: mammals, birds, amphibians, and reptiles, and in parentheses, in brackets, are the endemic species that we know about. And I say what we know about because there are probably some species that we don't know about, and there may be some species that we didn't find out about because they're already extinct. And I'll give you an example of something like that as I go through this. This is the Panamanian golden frog. It's not, it's a toad. It's called a frog. The skin is highly toxic. It has 10,000 mouse units of poison on its skin. That's enough to kill 10 to 20 people. That's how toxic the skin of this frog is. Toad, really. So if you see a really cute looking frog or toad when you're out, don't touch it. The brighter the color, the worse the warning, really. Here's another one. This is the strawberry poison frog. Now it comes in about 15 to 30 different colors. I've got a couple of examples here. We've got the red one over on the right, and over in the on the left we've got a red and blue one. The bottom half is blue. It doesn't mean it's less poisonous. It's poisonous. Again, highly toxic. Eats mostly ants. And interestingly, with things like this, the toxicity often comes from the food the animal is ingesting. If you take one of these and keep it in captivity and give it a special diet, a contrived diet, not a natural diet, the toxicity on the skin goes away with time. This is a very interesting frog. It is the male that looks after the eggs. The eggs have to be kept moist. How do you keep eggs moist if you're not in water? Anyone want to hazard a guess how this frog does that? You got that right? Yes, you did. You used the correct term too. I thought somebody might just say they pee on it, but he said they urinate on it. Thank you very much for the precise definition. This is the harpy eagle that you might see, 2-meter wingspan. You'll find it around Darien, so we might not see it in our area, but keep your eye out for raptors when we're in the area. Keep looking up as well, looking down. This is the quetzal. You'll find them all over Central America. Used to be sacred, of course, to the peoples there, the indigenous peoples. It is now a threatened species. They don't fly so much, they hop. I have seen presenters that demonstrate the motions of animals on stage. I'm not one of them, so I'm not going to hop. Interesting though, when it makes sounds, it sounds like a whimpering puppy. So if you hear a whimpering puppy in the jungle as you're wandering through, it's probably one of these. You might actually see it because of the bright colors up there. have a feeling they might have some quetzals in Cartagena. Talk about that in a minute. This is the glow-throated hummingbird. It's got a very small population. We don't really know. It's somewhere up to 12,000 individuals. And as I said, endemism can be very local. Look at the area where this is found. Just a little portion of the isthmus is the only place on the world where we find this thing. And of course, it's vulnerable to extinction due to people moving into this area and destroying the habitat. And it's not been well researched. We don't know very much about it, to be quite frank, beyond the fact that it exists and it's threatened, and that's what it looks like. Hummingbird. Least concern on this, the kinkajou. Sometimes people keep these as pets. It's not a monkey, but it has a fully prehensile tail, so it's basically got 5 hands. You won't see one of these because they're nocturnal. The only way you're going to see that is by going out at night, and we won't be there at night. You probably don't want to be there at night anyway. Typically they live up to about 23 years in the wild. They can go for as long as about 41 years in captivity. Gorgeous looking thing. These are the New World monkeys. Now, I've grouped them in families. So we go from species to genus to family. So there's a lot of individuals in family. These are just examples from the family. Give you the weights there, the status. V for vulnerable, LC least concern. We don't know about the Panamanian night monkey, that's unknown. The black-headed spider monkey is red, that's critically endangered. Next step there is extinction for that. Jeffrey's spider monkey, that's endangered. The 2 green ones underneath, least concern. And then we have the squirrel monkey underneath that's vulnerable. So all of these are under some kind of threat, some more serious than others. Let's look at some examples of them. This is Jeffrey's tamarin. You only find this in Panama. It's endemic, small, about 500 grams. Eats basically fruits, insects, and plants. Very gregarious. You will find them in groups up to 40, so they sort of run around in a big group, so easy to spot if you're looking for them, because there's going to be a group of them running around. You might find these if you're going on one of the tours off the ship into one of the villages. You might see them up in the jungle, or you might see them by the lake. That's what it looks like. What a face, right? Picture says 1,000 words. So true. Absolutely lovely. They're so attractive. This is the howler monkey, also endemic, and as you can see from the pictures, they are howling. Very noticeable. You can identify them very easily from their sound, which sounds like this. Boy, that sounds creepy, doesn't it? They are endangered. This is the night monkey. We don't know much about them. Usually monogamous. If you want to find one, basically you have to find a guide to take you out to go find it, because they're really hard to find. So if you are that kind of enthusiast, you need to hire somebody to go take you out into the jungle so you can find it. This is Jeffrey's spider monkey. Again, prehensile tail. Like many monkeys, you probably wonder where they get their water from. They don't necessarily have to come down to the lakefront to do it. They get their water from what they ingest. They're getting it from the plants. They're getting it from the food. So they've got a different kind of metabolism from us, where we have to drink. They don't necessarily have to drink. They're getting their water intake from their food. That's an endangered species. So is this one. This is the squirrel monkey. We've got the density up there. They've lost a lot of members. They're down to about 5,000 from about 200,000 in the 1970s. So they are definitely on the decline, unfortunately. We are losing species all the time. This is one of the sloths we find in this area, and it's getting severely endangered. This is the pygmy three-toed sloth. Again, from the little inset map, you see it's only found in one area of Panama, where that little square is. The occasionally you will find people that are doing charitable work and you can hold a clean sloth. I stress clean sloth because you will also find disreputable people that have sloths and they're not clean. So you might pick up something you don't want to. So be careful if you're going to hold a sloth. My wife's done both. We got away lucky the first time. This is the more common sloth. As you see through the range map, it's all through Panama down into South America. Look in the trees for this. They don't move very fast. They're easily to see. We've seen them all over Central America. We've seen them in Costa Rica. We've seen them here. We've seen them in different countries. So keep your eye out. You might see one. An unusual creature very rarely comes down from the trees, only does it for certain reasons, and they don't have to eat constantly. You'll find some deer. Look around for that. Range is enormous, as shown from the range map on the left. You might see these as you're going out. There's 2 subspecies of the white-tailed deer, and that's what they look like. Least concern, they're not threatened whatsoever. There are pumas here. Again, a huge range all through North America and South America. There's 6 subspecies of these. They're not under threat. We do find them in this area, mostly in the forest. They are solitary, so you're going to be very lucky if you find one. And you're also going to be very lucky because it's mostly at night that they come out. So you won't be seeing these during the day. Then, of course, we have the jaguar, the 3rd largest cat on the planet. It behaves like a leopard, but, it looks like a leopard, but behaves like a tiger. What's the difference there? Leopards will go up in trees and jump down. Tigers are much more aggressive on the ground level, so that's the difference there. And, of course, 6% of them are black like that, so we have the black jaguar. And as you see from the range map, all through this area, the bright red is where they are now. The pale red on that range map is where they were. So again, it's contracted, but we do find them in Panama. And if you do see one, please don't try this. It might be uncomfortable. Another cat, this is the margay, again solitary, nocturnal, so you won't see them. Unfortunately, they are being killed by the local population. About 14,000 a year get killed. They're very small. Of them, there are 10 subspecies, so variations on what you see. What's notable about this particular cat is it can mimic the sounds of its prey. So it will make a sound like something it wants to eat, and something it wants to eat will hear the sound and thinking it's one of its own species will come over to where this cat is, and that's it. Dinner for the cat. Pretty clever. No threat. This is the jaguarundi. Again, I've given you the dimensions here, and unlike many cats, it's got a wide range of sounds that it can make, even something that's like a bird. And from the range map, you'll see it's all through South America and the area that we're going into. So if you're lucky, you might see a jaguarundi. This is what it looks like in the wild. That's the Panamanian jaguarundi. So yes, they're in that area. Maybe we'll see them on the lakefront. Maybe you'll see them when you're on a tour. I don't know, but this is something to watch out for. Now, this is what you don't want to find. I hope you all recognize what this is. This is the Mycorrhiza coral snakes. There are 83 species of coral snakes, and there are a couple of rhymes for it. Red touch yellow kills a fellow, red touch black, venom lack. Yellow touches red, soon you'll be dead. Red touches black, friend of Jack. So you have to look at the color. Now, unfortunately, as you can see from these pictures, they're not all yellow, black, and red. This one is a coral snake. It is equally venomous, but it doesn't follow that rhyme that I just talked to you about. They're oviparous, meaning they hatch wild young, live young, and the color schemes are underneath it. You can have white, black and red, yellow, black and red. So if you see anything that looks remotely like this, they're small, stay away from it. Don't go off the trail. This is the fer de lance. You'll probably not encounter this because it's a nocturnal animal. The difference between this and the coral snake is this is an aggressive snake. I see you nodding. You're familiar with them. You've been bitten by one. No. You have one. No. Why do you know about it? You're what? You're a zookeeper. Oh, you're enjoying this then, aren't you? Wonderful. She's a zookeeper, in case you didn't hear that reply. They can also detect infrared radiation, in other words, heat detection, so they see both visually and by heat, which is why they can act so well at night. Doesn't matter that it's dark, you're giving off heat, they know you're there. This is the Bushmaster. It is the largest venomous snake in the New World. It's 2 meters up to, well, longer than 2 meters. It's bigger than 2 meters. Some of them have been known to grow to about twice that. They are also aggressive. You'll find them in the rainforest, and as you can see, the camouflage is pretty good. There's the camouflage. It's pretty good. Stay away from it. How are you feeling about going on tour now? I can tell you there are no snakes on the ship. Crocodiles and alligators, yes they are. There's Cayman crocodiles there. They're part of the family of alligators. There are 2 subspecies of cayman, and then there is Crocodylus acutus, the American crocodile. You find both of those in this area. You can, with very good certainty, or good luck anyway, good probability I should say, you'll see one as we're going into Lake Gatun. You might even see one in Lake Gatun. You might even see one, although it's probably not on the new locks, lying on one of the lock gates. This is one of them lying on one of the old lock gates, a picture taken of one of them. It's not my photograph, I will say I didn't see this, but I have seen them in the water myself as we're approaching. If I see them from the bridge, I'll point it out because I'm going to be doing the bridge commentary as we're going through. Another endemic species, this is the Panamanian spiny pocket mouse. You can see a picture of it here and the location that it is constrained to in Panama. The tail is long, comprising about half the length of its body. Again, something you won't see because it comes out at night and by itself. They don't live long, only up to about 18 months, but there's least concern of them right now. They're not threatened. Sponges, if you go into the sea, of course, if you see any sponges, I don't know if you know this, but sponges are not plants. They are in fact animals, but they are some of the oldest life forms that we have on this planet, dating back to about 760 million years ago. That's how long we've had sponges on this planet. So one of the longest successful life forms that we've had is sponges. There are 17 species and subspecies of scorpions in Panama. You've probably all got an irrational fear of scorpions. Well, you shouldn't be irrationally scared of them. You should be scared of them. It won't kill you necessarily, but it will give you a very nasty sting. And luckily, we found a new species of scorpion in Panama, so now there's even more. Lucky us. Now, remember I said that we might not know about everything that's living, and maybe we never will because it's already gone extinct. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Tuffy here, he was called Tuffy. He was collected in 2005. It was recognized in 2008 that he was a new species. He was collected in an area where there was a skin fungus going through the population of these little amphibians that wiped them all out. He was the last remaining member of his species. He passed away in 2016. Rab's fringe-limbed tree frog. We didn't know about it, we found it, and now they've all gone. There could be others out there that we didn't know about that have gone. We will never know. Jumping spiders, here's an example of a jumping spider. They're endemic, although all over the world. I mean, the jumping spiders in this area are endemic all over the world. There's about 6,000 species of them. They can jump up to 50 times their body length. I am not going to try and demonstrate that. So they don't have a web. They jump where they land on something and they kill it. Nasty. Nature's nasty. Survival of the fittest, right? We'll talk about survival of the fittest at 11 o'clock. In fact, why don't I tell you now? At 11 o'clock, I am giving a secret presentation. Why is it a secret? Because it's not in the program. Future Cruises is doing a Galapagos presentation in Connect at 11 o'clock, and I will be doing a special presentation there about Darwin, the Galapagos Islands, and what we saw when we went there. So the bulk of that is actually going to be me talking about Darwin, the Galapagos, and what we saw when we went there. All the pictures and the video were taken by me and my wife. I did the pictures and she did the video, so do come along to that if you're interested about the Galapagos Islands. This is the Lessie capybara. It's a rodent. It's the biggest rodent around. There are 33 families of rodents, 481 genera, and over 2,000 species of rodents. This is the biggest one. You may well see a herd of these down on the lakefront because they inhabit the Chagres River area. They inhabit Lake Gatun area. So you've got a good chance of seeing a little group of capybaras in this area. Keep your eye out for them. This one you won't see. This is the bush dog. It's a very rare canid. When I say it's canid, it's in the dog family, wolves, foxes. This is part of that group. It's a canid. It's very unusual. It doesn't look much like a dog. They do hunt in packs, and this is probably the only time you'll see it up on the screen now. This is the agouti, also a rodent, can live up to 20 years. You will see this for sure in the little zoo in Cartagena Port, if you go into the little zoo in Cartagena Port, because I know they're there. I've seen them there. So you can see agoutis there. You will also see giant anteaters there. They inhabit the Panama area and all through South America, but we do see some in that little zoo in Cartagena. They look very friendly. Please don't try and pet them, because my wife did, and the anteater seemed to be so friendly, it put its little hand up on her arm, and you see those claws up on the screen there? She had a hole in her arm that lasted 6 months before it healed. So don't put your hand in and pet the anteater. They can kill people with those claws, and they have indeed killed people. Not in Panama, but they have done it in South America. Well, this is how they basically do it. They rear up, they've got these huge claws, and whack, whack, and you're disemboweled. So don't go in either, right? I said we've got extinctions going on. This is an extinction map. This is actually marine extinction at the, that's a typo. That should say at the general level. I'm going to have to correct that. And the reason I bring this up is because of these 5 major extinctions we've had over the last 540 million years, we're now in the 6th major extinction. And by the end of the century, we are going to be losing maybe 2 million species. And most of the cause of that, unfortunately, is us. How many in the area that we're going to are on the endangered list? I've listed them here. You can see all of those, the numbers there. Those are on the critically endangered list. Next step for them, extinction. Whether we could save them or not, who knows? But that's what's happening, unfortunately, in this area. It's happening all over the world, but this is the local extinction list, if you take my meaning. And that brings me to the end of a brief overview of Panama flora and fauna. And if you care to join me at 11 o'clock in Connect, we'll talk about Darwin, Galapagos, and what we saw on the Galapagos Islands. Thank you so much for coming.